Cheryl Everett at this end is the founder of A Wheel and Away. The website says that A Wheel and Away is the product of a love of travel and a belief that disability doesn't have to be a barrier to that. Hester Granger is an ADHD coach and the co-founder of Perfectly Autistic, a neurodiversity consultancy run by Hester and her husband Kelly. James Dixon Box is operations director of the Marsham Court Hotel in Bournemouth, an award-winning hotel well known for its welcome for groups and for its commitment to accessible stays. And the fourth member of the panel is Ray Veal, Chief Executive of Tourism for All, an independent national charity working to improve accessibility in the tourism and leisure industries. Now, each member of the panel will give a short presentation based on the work they do, and if we have time, followed by a Q&A session. But before that, and to set the scene, please welcome Ray Veal.
Excuse me. Hi. Thank you very much indeed, Stuart, for that lovely introduction. And I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled today to be here taking part in this panel. I am really looking forward to the presentations that my three fellow panel members are going to give. No pressure. Now, when we talk with businesses about accessibility, one of the things that we're always thinking about is what's the best way to put the message of accessibility across? Is it about the fact that it's a big market that you can address, it's worth a lot, it's the right thing to do, or is it a combination of those things? Just to set the scene, some of the figures. We were talking in the introduction about the fact that 1 in 5 people in the country are disabled. Actually, the latest surveys show that 16.1 million people in the UK identify themselves as disabled. That's actually 1 in 4 of the population. The figures are going up. It is a growing sector of the population. In England, £14.1 billion per year is spent on domestic trips taken by those who have an impairment or who are part of a group where a member has an impairment. And the important thing about that is £14.1 billion, that's actually £1 in every £5 that's spent on domestic trips in England. So it's a significant part of the population. It is a significant market. But although the figures do make the case for accessibility quite well, to me and to the other people on the panel, statistics only really tell part of the story. Accessibility is about people, it's not just about numbers. So I'm going to ask Cheryl to step up and tell you a bit more about what her organisation does and what accessibility means to her. Okay, good luck.
Thank you, Ray. So my name is Cheryl Everett. I am the founder of A Wheel and Away. I focus on accessible tourism, so I work with travellers with a range of disabilities to help them plan amazing adventures, as well as with tourism businesses such as yourselves to advise them on how to become more inclusive in their practices. I would like to say thank you to everyone at the British Tourism and Travel Show for inviting me to come along today and be part of this panel. I'm delighted to be here with you all. But why am I here? How did I come to be standing in front of you? So I am the proud mum of 2 quite fabulous young people. My daughter Molly is 22 and my son Stan is 18. They are both very bright, they're very funny, they're also very determined. They both have a genetic neuromuscular condition called spinal muscular atrophy. This causes extreme muscle weakness and severe fatigue. It does affect them both differently. Molly is a full-time power chair user and has been since the age of 13, while Stan is a manual chair user, more reliant on his chair when he gets tired. But they do share one thing in common, and that's that they don't let it stop them from doing anything at all. As a family, we've always really enjoyed travelling. And we've been fortunate to have some really quite amazing experiences. We've been backpacking around India, we've gone kayaking on jungle rivers in Nicaragua, we've travelled the length of Vietnam, and we've also gone road tripping around the deep South America. We've also visited Morocco multiple times. It's a bit of a family favourite. Some of these destinations aren't necessarily what you would call conventionally accessible, especially not when you're doing it with a rucksack on your back and kind of winging it a little bit as you go. And we have had a few mishaps involving hospitals and damaged wheelchairs, but that's a story for another day. However, what we have found is that with the right information to hand and the support of the people around us, that most places can be achievable. They just sometimes maybe take a little bit of lateral thinking to make it work. Which brings me nicely, those are some of the photos, just shared a few photos of holiday snaps. But this brings me nicely onto the social model of disability. So the social model of disability states that people are disabled by the barriers around them that society imposes on them rather than by the condition itself. What does this mean in practice? So scenario one, you're a wheelchair user, you turn up at a venue and there's steps to get in. Automatically you are limited, you are restricted from accessing the building in the same way that somebody else would. Scenario two, you turn up and there's ramps to get in. You can access the building, your experience is the same as everybody else, and there is no difference between you. These barriers can take a number of forms. They can be down to the physical environment. So, as we said, for example, ramps, it can be whether things are available if you have hearing impairments, all those kind of things. They could be organisational or institutional, so is the correct legislation in place to ensure that people have the support that they need? They could be down to the attitude of the people around them. So if you assume that somebody is disabled, you're automatically assuming that they can't do things, you're automatically limiting the opportunities available to them. Or it could be simply down to lack of information. All of it says that's the limits rather than the condition itself. And what the social model does is says it's society that causes the problems. If you take those away, people are able to access things in the same way. And it looks at what somebody needs rather than their condition. What I'd like to do today is to look at how you can utilise this social model of disability to better inform you with your own business and how you can make your practices more applicable to everyone with all kinds of disabilities. So one of the biggest things that we experienced when travelling was the lack of information available to us. I have lost count of the number of times we've turned up at a venue supposedly accessible to be faced with a flight of stairs. And trust me, when you're told that our other clients with a wheelchair just get out and walk up the steps, it's not helpful, certainly not in the way that being given the correct information to start with would be. That would enable us to make clear, informed decisions about what's right for us, because it's different for everybody. I have clients who've told me that as a wheelchair user, for example, it can take them a whole weekend to book a seemingly simple trip that an able-bodied person could do in a couple of hours. Book a flight, book a hotel, you're off. As a wheelchair user, or indeed anybody with any kind of disability, it's not that simple. Think about it. How many hotels have accessibility information on their website? If they do have it, is it clear? Is it easy to find? Does it accurately reflect the offer that is on there? And also, what about the process? If the information is there, is it easy to book? Or as a person with disabilities, do you have to do something completely different? All of that adds to the sense of exclusion. And clients don't like that. Believe me, they will go elsewhere. Pictures, absolutely vital. Pictures are important every single time because what is right for one person may not be right for another. Accessibility means completely different things to different people. And again, going back to that about people being able to make informed decisions, those pictures help them to do that. So whenever you can, this is really helpful. Attitude is a biggie. So don't assume that people can't do things. often people are capable of far more than you realise, so ask them what they need. Trust me, I am a trustee for a youth disability charity. These young people, they smash expectations every single day, and it is fantastic to watch. So please, always be asking people, ask the questions if you don't know. I am, the other one, is physical adaptations. So, before that, staff. Talking about your staff, think about whether your staff have the correct support to help people. Do they know about the physical adaptations that have been put in place? Do they know about services that are available to help people with disabilities? Do they need more training around awareness, perhaps thinking about how this actually affects people? Are you part of an organisation that's truly inclusive in everything you do, not just for your clients, but also for your staff? All of these things are important, but obviously I'm not downplaying the importance of those physical adaptations as well. Really, really important, but be aware that a lot of disabled people are already very good at finding solutions to problems. What they need from you is your support to enable them to do that, okay? And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Sometimes those tiny details can make a massive difference, and feeling heard really goes a long way when you're talking about that. So I'd just like to finish with saying that removing those barriers, it creates equality. By taking away the issues that society has put on people, you are giving people that choice. Doing that, you're giving them more independence, you're giving them options and the opportunity to take part in the way that everybody else can do. Thank you. I'd now like to pass on to Hester, who is she runs Perfectly Autistic, and is going to talk to you a little more. Okay.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you. Right, always difficult to follow something like that. So, my name's Hester. I'm from Perfectly Autistic. Here's a little bit about me. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 43. I'm now 47, and I had no idea I had ADHD. Okay, I've had 30 different full-time jobs. I've booked countless holidays last minute because I got very excited and very giddy and had no idea why. By the way, I didn't get fired from any of those jobs, by the way. And the reason I was diagnosed was because my children were diagnosed autistic when they were 7 and 9. And off the back of that process, my husband realised he was neurodivergent, that he was autistic as well. He would be away with work a lot. He'd be travelling. And I used to send him information that the psychologist had shared with us. And he would reply, was that about me or Hudson? And if anyone of parents here of neurodivergent children, the chances are one of you are neurodivergent too. So Kelly, my husband, was diagnosed as autistic when he was 44. And when he told his company he was autistic, they laughed and said, well, you don't look autistic. He was like, right, I wasn't expecting that at all. And they just said, I just thought you had a stick up your arse. It's like, oh, okay. And if you're autistic, you quite often run conversations through your head. You work out what someone's going to say. You come up with their responses. And unsurprisingly, neither of those were on there. So he had a phone call from HR the next day. They apologised. And he decided that was not the company for him. So he reached out and spoke to a lot of other neurodivergent people as well. And he quite quickly realised that there was a real gap in the market for really good neurodiversity training for large corporate organisations quite often, and smaller too, but from actually neurodivergent people. So we launched Perfectly Autistic 5 years ago. It was literally our 5th birthday the other day. And in true ADHD style, we forgot. So we posted a few days later, but we've posted. So we've been going for five years now. But before that, I actually started my career as a TV presenter many, many moons ago on a show called The Right Stuff. Don't know if anyone remembers that. Channel 5. I used to be the girl in the booth putting through the phone calls. And I had no idea that that was the perfect job for me, because when it said on air and the sign would light up, I was like, yeah, let's go. And if you've got ADHD, you're quite often lacking dopamine, that kind of excitement, that chemical that you need. And inadvertently, I'd found this career that really suited me. I ended up working on the radio and working in PR and marketing for many years. And now full-time for 5 years, we've been working on Perfectly Autistic. I have 2 amazing children. I've got India, who's 15. That girl loves to Google holidays. This is what she does for fun, right? And what she does is she manifests. And then she just goes, oh, I've been looking at LA. And then casually, the Alexa will start to play songs related to this. Like, the girl's an actual genius. And I've got Hudson, who's 13, who hates travel. He absolutely hates traveling. He doesn't really like leaving the house. So that's actually quite challenging. You've got me that loves it, loves to book a holiday. India and I have wangled a little trip together next month because the boys don't want to come, and we're very excited. And then you've got my husband, Kelly, who now, heading to 50 this year, is realising that he does love to travel, but actually it takes quite a lot of effort and energy and planning, and obviously there's a lot of unknowns. So, very briefly, I'm going to mention I'm going on tour, and the only reason this is relevant is because I said yes to this without thinking about it, and now it's in May, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going away for 7 weeks. As you can see, there's lots of dates. So the only reason I'm telling you that is because I'm here at the Travel and Tourism Show, and I'm going to be doing my own little tour of the UK, and I'm so excited about that. So I want to talk about what neurodiversity is, because I think quite often it's a term, it's used, but not a lot of people always know what it means. So, neurodiversity describes the way and the idea that people experience and interact with the world around them. And they experience it in many different ways. We've actually been working with TUI on a year-long project around neuro-inclusive holidays and helping them. We've trained 2,000 members of their retail staff. It's just my husband and I that run Perfectly Autistic. We've trained 2,000 of their staff to understand that people experience and interact the world around them in different ways. So when it comes to travel, whether that's in the country, out of the country, there needs to be that understanding that actually it's going to be different. People's brains are different and they're going to respond differently to the same things. I think that's really, really crucial. So if you take me and my family, all 4 of us experience the same trip really, really differently. And like I said, this is especially the case when you're going traveling, even if you're going out for the day or just going somewhere new. Like Cheryl says, photos are so important. Just understanding what it looks like. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but actually just understand what it looks like, where we're going. You know, we've not been before. What does that mean? So, neurodiversity encompasses a number of different neurodivergent conditions. So I did a talk at the Disability Expo, and I'm moving out the way so people can take a photo of that slide. Because I had someone take a photo of it, and then they posted it on LinkedIn, sharing all their different neurodivergent conditions, and said, neurodiversity bingo. Because what you'll find is you're not just autistic, you're probably autistic and ADHD. If you're autistic, you're about 70% chance to also have ADHD as well. I have ADHD. I'm not diagnosed with dyscalculia, which is like the maths version of dyslexia, but I have failed my maths GCSE, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I got 3 Ds, which together I think should make a C, but apparently it doesn't work like that. Then we've got dyslexia that comes under the sort of neurodiversity umbrella, Tourette syndrome, OCD, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, and together those are neurodivergent conditions. Some of you may have seen, just thinking about sort of travel and tourism, some of you may have seen the Umbrella Project up and down the country, and we sponsored the Milton Keynes Umbrella Project in their shopping centre, and it was absolutely amazing. And that's almost where it comes from, the umbrella like of neurodivergent conditions, then they come underneath it. So the stats, why should you care? Why do you care about neurodiversity? So 1 in 5 of the population is neurodivergent. That's a fairly... forgotten the word, sort of small number, like we think it's a lot more, is what I'm trying to say. So that's about 20% of your visitors, your customers, the people coming to stay. So there was a survey done just when we started working with TUI last May. So it was from a marketing company talking about neurodiversity. So 80% of parents with autistic children don't take trips, but they would if they were neurodivergent friendly, if they were autism friendly. 93% would take those trips. And actually, parenting neurodivergent children, I feel we need trips more than ever. We need that break. Someone shaking their head. We need that break. And actually, my husband just said it's the same stuff, just hotter. Like everything just is, you got the same challenges when you go on holiday, but actually you really need that break. 68%, leading on with what Cheryl was saying, find online photos of specific rooms, extremely important when choosing hotels. From us, for the neurodivergent angle, it's being able to see the floor plan. My daughter loves the floor plan. Being able to see what it looks like. My 2 I mean, you can tell I'm not that tall. My 13-year-old's 5'10". We can't be dealing with pull-out beds anymore. So it says a family of 4, a room of a family of 4, but my 2 children who are 13 and 15 and a girl and a boy are expected to sleep on a sofa bed together. That's never happening. So photos are so incredibly important. Plans as well, floor plans. The more information, the better. And the stat said from the survey, 90% of neurodivergent families are motivated to travel. Okay, with the work with TUI that we did, they were like, oh, but they don't, if you're autistic, you don't want to take a child on a cruise, they might jump in the water. This isn't what TUI said, this is what someone said to them talking about it. And we were like, well, no, that's not the case at all. This is real stereotyping. So I think at the end of the day, it's about working out what your needs are for your customers, your visitors, and what works for them. You obviously know your customers best. And I just want to end by saying, get it right and you've got customers for life. We tend to fly with the same airline when we go away because they're really neurodivergent friendly. We tend to go to similar places. I never thought we'd be the family that go back year after year to the same place, but that's what we do because it works for us. We know what we're doing. And I wasn't going to say this, but Giles Brandreth randomly was talking about trips, and he was saying, a holiday is somewhere where you can go and relax. You've been before. You know what to get. You know what you're expecting. You know where you can go for dinner. You know the nice little places. And a trip is like an exciting adventure. And I just want you to sort of take away that because I think that's really key. But get it right and you've got customers for life. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. There we go. My name is James. I'm the operations director at the Marsham Court Hotel. We are a family-owned and run hotel in Bournemouth on the south coast. As I said, we're a family hotel. We've been there, my family's been there since 1987, so a very long time, and it's now run by me and my sister day to day. My brother also owns the business with us. We are passionate about people. That is why we run our business. We love people, both our customers, our team, everyone involved in the hotel. That is what drives us day to day. This is a picture of my family, my sister and my brother and myself, and our mum. Our mum in 2012 was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer that attacked her spine. And very quickly, she started to lose mobility. And for the last few years of her life, she was a wheelchair user. This threw up so many different things that we had never experienced before. I also have a cousin whose daughter has cerebral palsy, and she's actually been in a wheelchair her whole life. And so this threw up this idea of accessibility as suddenly something that seemed really important to us. And it's a shame, actually, that I think a lot of people who go down this route do so because of personal experience. What I want to try and do is take my personal experience and not just apply it to my own business, but get other people to apply it to their businesses as well. Because it's so important to me, and it shouldn't just be about making a difference in our business, it should be about making a difference everywhere. So that's what we've gone about doing. But within our business, what we have done is we have installed a sensory room for people who are neurodivergent. And that sounds like a big thing to do. Not many places do it. It is becoming more common in hotels. But this was before. This was a store cupboard. And it didn't have much in it, to be honest. It was unused space. And this, since we've started our accessibility project, has become one of the most used spaces in the whole project. It is used all the time by both residential guests and non-residential guests. People come in for lunch to use this facility. So it's become a huge part of what we do. This is a Changing Places bathroom. Changing Places is sort of an all-singing, all-dancing bathroom. It has a changing table. It has a height-adjustable sink. It has a big H-hoist in the ceiling. And this actually is something that you would find normally in shopping centres and places like that. When we built this in 2021, we were the first hotel in the whole of the UK to have our own Changing Places facility. We are still the only hotel in the UK to have their own Changing Places facility. Despite us shouting about it all over, up and down the country and saying how useful it is and how much it gets used, people still are not getting on board. And I will beat this drum till the day I die that we need to get more on board with these things. And there are people who use it, who need it, and it will improve businesses. We have 5 fully accessible bedrooms, and when we say fully accessible, they have a ceiling track hoist, they have a profiling bed, they have fully accessible bathrooms. We have additional equipment that can be put in or taken out depending on what people need. But the key with this is that we have a team at the hotel who understand what the equipment is, what it does, what's available, what we can take it out, what we can put in, all of that. And that is key. And one of the things I really want to shout about here is there are you talk about big hotel chains, and they quite often have a central res department who is in a building in a city that is nowhere near the hotel. And I've had really difficult times trying to book a hotel room for my cousin and saying, oh, does the bed have a gap underneath it so we can get her hoist underneath? Does it have, what does it have in the accessible bathroom? And they cannot tell me. One of the things that actually gives you an advantage as a smaller business is you know what you have. You know what you can achieve. You understand the layouts of your building. You understand the layouts of your bedrooms. This is really important, and it gives you a massive advantage over those big companies. So I really want smaller businesses as well to know that you actually have really great advantages in this area. Don't think, oh, I'm only a small business, I can't do it, it's too much. Actually, those small things can really put you ahead of the competition. This is our swimming pool hoist as well. We have a pool, and we put a swimming pool hoist in so people can actually use our pool as well. We have always said our whole aim with this is to create a community within the hotel that reflects the community outside the hotel. Okay? We want to make sure that all of the mixture of people from all different backgrounds, different abilities, different everything, come together in our community. That is reflected within the people within the hotel. That means not only our customers and our guests, but also our staff. And our team here, we have 95 team members in the hotel. Our youngest is 14. He works only on a Saturday, but he has a permit and he can do it. And our oldest person at the moment is 76. So we have a very, very wide-ranging team, and that's how we like it. 14% of our employees have a disclosed disability, a disclosed one. I'd like to say that we know about all of them because we're very open, and we have that kind of culture. We have that come to us, talk to us, we'll help you kind of culture. So people tend to tell us when they have needs. But compared to the national average, that is huge. The national average is currently sitting around about the 4 or 5% mark. So that is massive. Hospitality industry actually is a larger disabled employer. The national average for hospitality sits around about 8 or 9%. So that it is higher, but still we are hitting that number. And a lot of that is just about understanding, being open-minded, making sure that we are, if someone is struggling, that we're saying, what can we do to help? Not telling them off for poor performance. It's about how can we help you succeed? And that is how we live every day. Our longest-serving team member has been with us for 29 years. And actually, one of the key things for us is if you can really give people that opportunity for success for disabled people within your business, the loyalty is massive, and they will be with you forever. We did not do this on our own. And I would never, ever suggest for anyone to go diving straight into the accessible market alone, blindly, without the years and years of experience that organizations in your area can give you. These are just some of the organizations that we work with. Most of these people are local to us in Bournemouth, and I would suggest trying to reach out to local organizations who have people on the ground who can come into your business and can help you. Most of these organizations can organize training for you because that is key as well. Do not put in all singing and dancing facilities. Do not do anything until your staff are trained on how to facilitate, because you will fall at the first hurdle. And actually, the thing that people need most of all when they're coming into your business is someone to say, how can I help you? How can I make it easier? How can I make sure that you are confident before you even arrive in the hotel? That is the most important thing. So yeah, that's me. Thank you very much. I'll pass back to Ray.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you, everybody. So, coming on to my part, and really I'm just summarising what everyone else has been saying. So, we think of accessibility in terms of its impact on what we call the 3 R's of the business. Its revenue, its resilience, its reputation. Revenue is a critical one. It is a valuable market and it is growing. And in the preparation for this session today, we actually distributed a small survey to people who were exhibiting at the show and people who were coming to it. And some of the responses that we got were very, very informative. What was really interesting was that people who had invested in accessibility did say that it had delivered the benefit of more customers. We haven't followed up with people yet to quantify that, but definitely there is that positive effect. The resilience of businesses. When you are offering a service and you engage with accessibility, what you're engaging with is a market that's loyal, it stays longer, it spends more, and will come back. And that's been mentioned before. So basically, as I say, customers who stay longer and who extend your trading season. It's easier to get people to stay out of season because they like the service that they get. And then there's your reputation. A focus on customer service rather than your legal requirements will rather than just on legal requirements, will mean that people will actually want to work with you, want to use your services. Another of the findings from the survey that we put out around this session was that another of the benefits that people noticed was an improvement in their standing within the communities in which they're based. So something that's really quite intangible. And I know you've mentioned something similar, James. So, resources to help. And I think I want to pay tribute here to Visit England. They've done an awful lot of work. Well, we've helped them with some of it, along with other members of the Inclusive Tourism Action Group for England. But Visit England is very active in the area of accessibility, and it has spearheaded several initiatives which will help businesses to improve their accessibility. First off, there's the Accessible and Inclusive Tourism Toolkit for businesses, available on Visit England's website. And we do actually have a representative of Visit England here, Ross Calladine, if you want to grab him while you're here. But that's well worth looking at. It provides lots and lots of practical resources, practical guides, practical help. Then there is the Accessibility Guide service, the real medium for getting accessibility information that's accurate and that's comprehensive out there is through an accessibility guide. And there is you can develop your own with a supported process, or Accessable with Visit England are there to prepare an accessibility guide for you. Finally, there's the key accessibility features which are being developed or have been developed by Visit England as a set of filters for businesses to put onto their websites and for booking channels and destinations to put onto their websites to enable people who have specific access needs to get closer to what they want more quickly, to spend less time searching. So those resources all worth checking out. So finally, key takeaways. What are the things that we should be thinking about as we go? So, first thing to remember, all impairments and access needs are individual and they're different. Even if whether it's a physical impairment, whether it's a cognitive impairment, it will be different for different people. For me, I'm really, really interested in hearing Hester talk about her husband and her children, because I actually discovered that I'm neurodivergent when I was in my 60s, and that was a really, really strange feeling. Suddenly realising, So that's why life has always been so difficult. And actually, it has changed the way that I think, but my experience has been different to the experiences that Hester reported, and everybody's experience is different. The other thing to bear in mind and to be confident with is that no business can cater for every type and every level of impairment or access need. Nobody can actually cater for everybody. But the fact that you can't do everything doesn't mean that you shouldn't do something. And whatever you can do, embracing accessibility, doing what you can, will make a huge difference, and it will get your journey underway. Another thing to bear in mind, accessibility is not as difficult or as frightening as you might think. Certainly a lot of businesses that we speak to are very concerned about the cost of what might be involved in becoming accessible, but more importantly about the potential impact of getting it wrong. What if I do the wrong thing? What if I say the wrong thing? And really, it's just, don't be frightened by it. It's okay to do what you can. Your business is probably already more accessible than you realise it is. This is something that we find a lot of the time. People will tell us that they aren't accessible, they can't be accessible. Actually, they are an awful lot more accessible already, doing a lot of things already that are making a difference. And finally, and most importantly, to the vast majority of customers with access needs, the welcome and the service that they receive are every bit as important as the facilities that are provided. That the facilities can be fabulous, but if the welcome is wrong, then it can ruin a break. I was talking with Hester the other day and mentioned that I had a very innocuous but very challenging experience at a hotel in Bath many years ago, which still stays with me and means I've never visited Bath again to this day, because it was completely innocent, and yet it really was a difficult thing. So that's the end for me of my part. We are going to take questions now, but what I would like to do is just grab the floor for a moment to ask the team what each of them think are the 3 simple things, simple, cheap, effective things that businesses could do tomorrow to improve their accessibility. And we'll start with Cheryl.
With me? Sorry.
Cheryl.
Oh, Cheryl, sorry. I didn't hear, sorry.
So the first one has got to be information. I talked about it in my speech anyway, but that's an easy fix for most people. Give people the right information, because as Ray said, not everywhere can be all things to all people, but if you give them the right information, they can make a choice about whether it's right for them or not. I think focusing on what you guys are both saying as well is about making sure that your staff have the correct training, that they can support people, because again, even if the offer isn't perfect, if people show the right support, they want to help, that counts for so much. We had a recent visit to a hotel in Aberdeenshire, and it really sticks in my mind. The young guy there was so enthusiastic and so knowledgeable about what the hotel had to offer. It really stuck in my mind, and it took away any sort of sense of exclusion. It was amazing. Third one, I would say reach out to the people around you. Don't assume that you know everything, but actually ask the people around, whether that be your clients, whether that be maybe your staff, especially if most staff will have some lived experience of disability, whether it's themselves or a family member. So, utilize the knowledge that you've got. As Ray mentioned, it doesn't all have to be huge, big things that are going to cost you lots of money. There's so much knowledge out there already, so build on that. That would be mine.
I love those. Right, I think mine would be don't judge. I think you never know what people are going through. You never know what experiences they're having. You don't know what that's taken to get them there, for example. So maybe if someone turns up and they're not making eye contact, or maybe they've got their hood up, or maybe they seem a bit brusque or are coming across a little bit blunt. I think it's that not judging. I think we need to do that in life anyway. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about that. Secondly, I think you can just ask one really simple question. We did this as part of our training as TUI, and we've trained Royal Caribbean as well, is just, what one thing could I do to make your trip more enjoyable or your visit more enjoyable? What one thing could it be? Because, you know, we choose trips around, so my son's got it's like an eating disorder linked to autism called ARFID, so he only eats Nutella sandwiches and Dairy Lee sandwiches, like great choice in food, but we can only go to places that sell sliced bread, which is very niche and very specific. So I think if you could ask someone, what one change can you make? Last year when we went on holiday, I plucked up the courage to say, look, it was an all-inclusive, which kind of always feels a little bit galling when only 3 of us eat. And I explained the situation. And every evening at 6 o'clock, that was the time that we said worked for us, someone would come up with a plate of bread and a massive tub of Nutella. It was absolutely dreamy. And it was such a small thing. It didn't cost them anything, and it was amazing. So yeah, ask one thing, what can I do to sort of change or help your trip or your visit better? And it kind of leads into the not judging, but just be kind. I just think be kind. Like Ray said, that welcome, I also we talked about this the other day, also had a really random experience in Bath as well. I don't know what's going on, and I also have not been back to Bath. So if there's a Bath stand here, they need to do a little bit of PR. I know, that's why I'm saying it. You need to do some PR.
Sorry.
But this is it. It's the get, like I said, get it right, and you will have customers for life. And I think I've gone on to the fourth one because, hey, here we go. But I think it's don't expect, especially when it comes to neurodiversity, don't expect or accessibility to have all the answers. It's a journey, quite literally. Don't expect to know everything. Like, that's okay as well. So there we go. I'll stop talking.
For me, I think my first one is being open-minded. Going into this, make sure that you're not shutting certain things down, going, oh, that's too difficult, we can't go there. Think about lateral thinking. How can you work around problems? Be open-minded and make sure that you're not shutting things down straight away. I'm going to link into one of yours, Cheryl, actually, is pre-trip information is so important, because actually, if people can't learn more about your place of business before they arrive, they won't book. They just, because it's too big a risk. And even when we had done our all of our improvements, our facilities and things like that, it was on our website and everything like that. People still were coming for, I'm going to come for 1 night or 2 nights just to check it out before. Now we have people staying for week-long vacations with their family and stuff like that, and it's great because they know. And we've actually constantly looked at ways to improve that. We now have video tours of not only our downstairs areas, but for each of our accessible bedrooms has its own individual video tour. My cousin in her wheelchair is our chief tester, and we have a video not only of the room, but of her arriving at the hotel, going into the lift, going down the corridor to the room, so that they can see her in her electric wheelchair getting to the room and how simple it is. And that just gives people confidence, it gives people trust. So that's my second. And my third, I'm going to link back again, but training. Make sure your team know what they're doing and how to manage the situation. Give them confidence. Your team will be terrified of this when you first start talking to them about it. Promise me, they will be going, oh, what if we say the wrong thing? What if we do the wrong thing? Blah, blah, blah. Just train them. The more you give them training, the more you give them information, they will relax and they will realize that actually all they have to do is ask, how can I help you? And that's all they need to do. And be ready to go, oh yeah, I can do that, that's not a problem. Think around the problems. Think around that how can I make that easier?
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. For me, obviously, I'd pick up on the training one, but I think there are some practical things that can be done. Number one, take a review of your signage. The clearer that things are, the easier it is for people to find their way around, the more confident they're going to be. So certainly when I go into a new place, not being able to work out where I am or trying to work out where I am, because obviously I won't ask anybody, that would just be ridiculous. So having signage that's clear, and it doesn't have to be expensive, it can be handwritten as long as it makes things clear. Second thing I would say is, get an accessibility guide. It's inexpensive and it is practical. It will actually give people the information in a format that's consistent, and it will give them the information that they need. And the third thing I would do, given the nature of the show, is a particular one for coach operators and coach tourism companies. From time to time, in busy periods, you'll find companies do take on third-party contractors with third-party drivers and third-party vehicles to augment their fleet. And I would just say, just take a look at and review the terms and conditions and the contractual terms on which you take on these third parties. Again, a case, my mum used to really enjoy coach holidays, but there was one occasion when she booked on a coach tour with a very reputable coach tour operator, and was on an excursion and found herself ejected from the coach and left by the side of a busy country road while the coach drove away. She had to cross a busy road, clamber up a bank and walk half a mile back along the road to a service station so she could actually order a taxi to take her back to the hotel she was staying at, because, as I say, she'd been ejected from the coach for the sin of asking to use the toilet in the coach. It was a third party. It was a subcontractor, and I'm glad to say that the company was as horrified as I was by what had happened, and were extremely apologetic. But it shouldn't really have happened. And one of the things that allowed it to happen was that the procedures by which a third-party business was taken on and representing the coach company was not necessarily as thorough as it could have been. So that would be my other thing. Just check how comprehensive and watertight your engagement is with third parties.
Cool.
Now, questions from the audience.
No one?
Ah. Phew, thank goodness. Sorry, I mean...
Hello, thank you for a really interesting talk. I suppose, could any of you talk on the idea that the more accessible you make it for those that need those accessibility requirements, the more accessible it then becomes for everyone, especially maybe the hotel there?
I suppose for me, the more we've put obviously our accessibility guides up of the hotel, our accessibility videos, as I was talking about, specifically designed for people who need the accessibility things. That doesn't mean that other people don't watch them and actually see more of the hotel and understand its layout and things like that. So yes, absolutely. The more information you can have out there is going to be better for everyone. I think for me, one of the things that it has forced us into, I say forced, it hasn't forced us to do it, but one thing we've really done a lot of is collaborating with other businesses within the area in terms of attractions and transport and things like that. And it's made us more knowledgeable about those things, not only in terms of their accessibility, so that when we have disabled people staying with us, we can say, oh yeah, that attraction's completely accessible, it has level access and things like that, but also actually just generally our team knowing about those attractions. So when people come to the desk and say, where should we go today? They can talk about things. So it actually does help the team in a wider sense anyway. I think our business generally has improved across the board in terms of revenue and bookings and things like this because of what we've done within the accessibility market. The reputational improvement it's given us is massive. And we actually have a lot of charities now who book their events with us, not necessarily because they need our facilities, but because they like our ethos. And a lot of consumers out there now are buying based on the ethos of the company that they're looking at, both on sustainability, accessibility, all those things. And if you can show yourself to be an ethical business, people will choose you.
Can I just answer that as well? I was going to say 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent, and 50% of those people don't know it. So Ray very openly shared that he realised in his 60s, my husband and I were in our 40s. There's a real wave of people that have not been diagnosed or identifying as neurodivergent later in life. So actually, if you put these things into place, it benefits everybody, because there'll be a lot of people that don't realise they're neurodivergent, and we as a family don't need accessible rooms, but I'm already thinking this just sounds amazing, because then I'd be able to show my children, look, this is literally what it looks like, here's the videos. And my children are fairly low needs, but actually, who doesn't love a good image and a photo? Would you ever book a holiday without seeing the photos? You just wouldn't, would you? Nobody would ever do that.
I'd just like to pick up on it as well, answering it from a sort of parent's perspective. So as a parent of 2 young people with a disability, I'm used to having to fight the corner for things that they need. And my kids will tell you that I'm not afraid to do that. However, you can't fight for things unless you know they're available. So by improving that access, you learn more about stuff as well. My experiences with physical disability, and I'm constantly learning about the requirements of people with other kinds of conditions. But that learning then helps me to better provide for people as well. And I think that translates into all businesses. The more you know, the more you can help people, and you know what to be looking for if you haven't got it already.
I think knowledge is power.
And for me, I would just say that certainly from our experience, improving the service that you give to customers with access needs, what you're doing is really just improving the service you're giving to all customers. Is there anything that you've done at your hotel, James, that actually isn't applicable to every other customer who doesn't have access needs?
Not really. I mean, there's obviously some specifics in terms of equipment and things like that, but generally, customer service training is customer service training.
Yeah.
Thank you. A general question for the panel. With 85 to 90% of the UK and Ireland being rural, what could we do more and what could we do better to be more inclusive in terms of ensuring, and obviously there's economic benefits that come from that, what can we do better to ensure that our landscape is more accessible and inclusive and getting people to experience 85-90% of our landscape?
That's such a great question. Yeah. I've just moved to Norfolk because it's quiet and rural and lovely. So as a neurodivergent family, we were living in Berkshire, and that felt a lot. We've been there for years. And actually, I just think it's, when it comes to, I mean, obviously this is, physical accessibility to the rural England and, UK is very different. But I just think almost explaining the benefits, think how great it is, fresh air for your mental health, benefits everybody. That's just what I'm going to say, but I'm not an expert in this area.
No, that's fine. Well, I actually live in Devon, so I'm sort of in a similar position. Have 2 kids who see the countryside very differently. One of them would be out in it in all weathers. The other one, I remember her writing as a kid that Dartmoor is a horrible, smelly place, covered in gorse bushes and whatever else. So for her, it's not such a thing. But my son last year took part in a walk. It was 100 miles in 3 days along the Cotswolds Way, and a lot of that was looking at how we could improve accessibility in the countryside. He was in a wheelchair, supported by a team of people, and I think that's one of the key things. It's getting those people to support you, but it's also looking at finding the right equipment that can help you do it. There's some amazing companies out there with if you talk about physical disability, that have these incredible wheelchairs that can get up Snowdon, for goodness sakes. So there's a lot of knowledge. Again, going back to that knowledge, there's a lot of people out there, but it's just tapping into the right people and getting that support in place to help it happen.
I think for me, again, it's about collaboration. Our hotel is in Bournemouth, it's right in the centre of town, but a lot of people come to our hotel to experience the Jurassic Coast, to experience the New Forest, and things like that. So we do have to reach out to other businesses and sort of make sure our team know how they can get there, what are the accessible routes, what are the accessible transport options in the area. One of the biggest difficulties we have in Bournemouth, accessible taxis. Yeah. We have them. You can't book them. And we were like, what? You can't book them ahead. You can only get them if you call at the time. To the point where we kicked off with our local taxi company so much that we've worked with them for years, that they have changed their policy because we kicked off so much. So, make noise, say, see what's going on and make that change. But know, make sure you've got that knowledge, reach out to other organizations, what is going on in that area, how can you make that work? And there are actually, in rural areas, there are a lot of, if you've got an attraction in a rural area, there are a lot of small things that you can do to make that attraction more accessible. In terms of, there are fairly cheap options to create walkways across a field to actually make sure that wheelchairs can get across that field. I work in the events field, and we have to look at that when we're looking at the accessibility of our event. I have an event in a big field. How am I going to make sure that if the rain falls down and it gets muddy, that I am not going to have people stuck in a wheelchair in the middle of that field? Walkways. And it's a very simple operation. We roll them down, we roll them up. There are things there that can help that are really simple.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I'm a parent to a permanent wheelchair user. She was cerebral palsy from birth. And I've got a question really aimed at the hoteliers in the UK. Not yourself, James.
Yeah.
This is really about... there's a very well-known, very large leisure company in the UK who have caravan parks and hotels and other places you may know who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Their hotel website does not actually offer any accessible rooms. You would never, ever know they've got any. And for years, our family used to meet up, and I left my daughter out of the equation because I said to my wife, there aren't any accessible rooms. She said, well, phone them up. And being a bloke, I said, oh, waste of time, you know. But I did, and they had accessible rooms. And I asked them the question, why do you not advertise that you have accessible rooms at your properties? Oh, well, we'd have people booking them that don't need them. And you've got to, you have to phone them, this company.
Yeah.
You can't book it online. Now, in the States, Marriott were fined tens of thousands of dollars under the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, for not having that little box on some of their hotels where you can just tick accessible rooms. Holiday Inn, you can book an accessible room. There's lots of hotel groups where you can.
Yeah.
Now, why are UK holidays or UK hotel groups still in the dark ages over this?
Okay, I'm going to answer this one very directly and say you cannot book our accessible rooms online the same way you do our other rooms for that very reason. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You do actually state you've got them.
Oh, of course we do. We massively advertise.
Well, I know you do, so that's the thing.
You do find, I know it sounds crazy, but people will book an accessible room because they think if they book an accessible room, they're going to have a bigger room. And it's really annoying, but what that has meant is we actually don't put our accessible rooms on for automatic online sale. Obviously, we massively advertise what we do, and we advertise the equipment that we've got. We have a full spec sheet. We have everything. What it also means is that our team can have a personal conversation when someone is booking that room to say, what is it that you need? Because there is so much of our equipment that can be put in or taken out of our rooms. Someone might need the profile bed, but they don't need the hoist. They want a big hoist hanging there. Our hoists are actually removable so that we can take that away from the room to give them more space and things like that. So it's better for us that we actually offer people the opportunity to have a conversation with us. But yes, I do not understand why companies would hide the fact that they have accessible rooms. That, to me, seems absolutely crazy. Apart from anything else, why spend money investing in accessible rooms if you're not going to advertise them? So,
I think for me, it may be down to the fact that there is still that underlying concern about the fact that someone will book the room, arrive, discover it's not what they were expecting, and then the hotel will be in for some indeterminate penalty in terms of not supplying what was actually asked for. So I think for me that's where what Visit England are doing with accessibility guides comes in very importantly, because very much the idea is being pressed that if you give people the information that they need to make their own decisions, then you've done what you can. But just withholding the information because you're afraid the information might be wrong, or you're afraid that it still might not match what they need, then it does seem to be self-defeating.
You know what? I'm going to coin the phrase "purple hushing." In that we say talk about in sustainability, talk about greenwashing and green hushing when people are doing loads of great work with sustainability, but they're not really shouting about it because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They want, talking about green hushing. We should be saying, don't purple hush your business. Make sure if you're doing things that you're shouting about them, that you're saying we can do this. Have a conversation with us. Come and talk to us, and we can make it work for you, and we can give you confidence to come away.
Thank you so much on behalf of BTTS, for just putting together what you put together today. I think we've learned so much, and it reminds us about the importance, as I said rather glibly right at the beginning of this session, an hour ago. It's just flown by. Thank you so much. Can you put your hands together, please, and thank Ray, Cheryl, Hester, and James.